So let's get to it. It is my great, great pleasure to introduce to you today our guest, actor, filmmaker, author, and musician, Josh Radnor. From 2005 to 2014, Josh starred as Ted Mosby on the Emmy Award-winning CBS sitcom How I Met Your Mother. He also starred in the NBC series Rise and the PBS original series Mercy Street, as well as Jill Soloway's debut feature film Afternoon Delight. Josh made his Broadway debut in the stage version of The Graduate opposite Kathleen Turner and Alicia Silverstone, and he thrilled all of us with his portrayal of Isaac in Ayad Akhtar's Pulitzer Prize-winning and Tony-nominated Disgraced. He wrote and directed 2 feature films, Happy Thank You More Please and Liberal Arts, both of which premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, the former winning the 2010 Audience Award. Josh is currently co-starring alongside Al Pacino in the Amazon Prime television series Hunters. Please help me give a warm welcome to Josh Radnor. Wow, that one was timed out the best it's ever happened.
To hit it right, or am I supposed to wait until you know the spotlight hit me? But here we are.
You know, I always tell people, today should have been the day, because I feel like if there'd been a mistake, you would have been cool with it.
Oh, I'm cool with all of it, and I don't need the applause.
Josh, I have to tell you, I don't want to embarrass you, but when I'm having these conversations with people that I know, half of what we're going to talk about is the body of work, and for sure we all want to hear about that, and I'm sure there'll be some questions about your body of work. But you know, one thing that I just adore so much about you is the fact that you do continually practice mindfulness and challenge yourself to be mindful and to meditate. And I think when I first met you at New York Stage and Film, we were at that, like the one of 3 restaurants that people go to there. And we got into this conversation about meditation and spiritual practice. And I would think at this time right now that's so very uncertain, and every day we all have to sort of recommit ourselves to positivity. These practices of yours are coming in handy, and I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share some of that, and perhaps maybe how you might approach your life when the world opens up, what our new normal even means now, right? But maybe that you've learned in your this now apply to your life when
Well, that's a real question. I appreciate that question, and thanks, by the way, just for having me here. It's really nice to be with all of you. Yeah, I forget. You had come up to see online, and I was already signed on to do Disgraced,
you were
right?
kind of signed on.
I was kind of signed on. You were coming up to woo me.
Yeah, we were looking at this as like the final.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started meditating in 2003 or 4, I can't remember. I was very diligent twice daily meditator for years. I started learning Transcendental Meditation, which is a mantra meditation. And initially, I think I was attracted to it because I wanted anxiety relief. I've always had a very strong, or a number of strong voices in my head, not all of which are my friends. Some of which are very harshly critical, just not my best allies. So I wanted a different relationship to those voices in my head. And then it became about something much bigger and broader, which was about simply being awake in the world and awake in my life. And then success happened in a very big way with How I Met Your Mother in terms of visibility. So I had a whole other reason to stay with my feet on the ground and my eyes open, because I felt like if I floated into the air and my eyes got closed, I could be gobbled up by, forces much bigger than me. And we've seen that story so many times. So I really wanted to be conscious. And I did a talk a couple years ago in India at something called the Ink Talks. And I talked about kind of using visibility and celebrity as a spiritual practice. Because, Ram Dass, who I knew a bit, who just passed away a couple months ago, was this great towering spiritual teacher of the 20th century. And he would always talk about whatever's going on in your life is your yoga. you know, like he had a stroke at 67. That was his yoga. Mine was being on like a hugely popular sitcom. That was like my practice, like how to deal with that. Other people have, you know, loss of loved ones, health problems, loneliness, like whatever's up for you is kind of your, like that's an area for you to do your work.
Right.
So I you know, I fell off the twice daily meditation in the last couple of years, and I was kind of doing one, if that. I would give myself some days where I wasn't meditating. But since this pandemic hit and I've been in quarantine, I've given myself back to twice daily non-negotiable meditation. And I find that it's like it helps me not panic. It helps me just be like everything's okay right now. I'm thinking, and I might be thinking crazy thoughts. It might, you know, I read this phrase the other day, like begin to doubt your doubts, you know?
Yeah.
Like the voice in our head is so convincing because it speaks in our own voice. So we think it's us, right?
Right.
And when it tells us, you know, you're never going to work again, no one's ever going to love you, this is going to change the world for the, you know, all these bad things are going to happen. There's going to be societal, like any of the things that our voice tells us, you know, you get a different relationship to it where you go, huh, that's the voice. You know, Ram Dass used to say, you don't say I am angry, you say anger is present.
Mm-hmm.
You don't become anger.
Right.
It's just a cloud that's floating by. And I find meditation and mindfulness practices, they give me some sense of like a healthy detachment from my emotional life where I go, oh, that's happening, you know? I remember Christopher Reeve, I read an article with him where he said, this is after he had been paralyzed, and he said, I've learned not to pay so much attention to my moods. And I thought that was amazing. You know, I used to be so bullied by my moods. I think if I was happy, oh, I've cracked the secret to life. I'm going to be happy forever.
Right.
And if I was depressed, I was like, well, this is adulthood. This is what everyone's been talking about. This is just depression and drudgery. And here we are forever.
Right.
And one of the mercies of getting older for me is realizing that like feelings don't stick around all that long if you let them be. It seems to be the resistance to feelings that keeps them in place.
Right.
But like if we just let ourselves be sad for an afternoon or pissed off about something, it seems to kind of work itself out. It's like to create a fluid emotional life that's authentic seems to be, you know, it's not, you use the word positivity, and I would say it's about letting things be positive when they're positive, and even letting things be negative when they're negative,
Right.
and not being so clinging to it should be this way,
Right.
because it just is, you know.
Well, and like what a perfect opportunity to practice this for all of us that are on this call, right? I mean, today I was just saying to my coworker, it was the first day that I woke up. I woke up blue, like really blue. Somehow it was the first day that I've experienced that. And for me, I realized it's been truly the lack of human connection with people. You know, because at a certain point, like the family, it's not enough. And, you know, going down the street to my mom and the person at Kroger who I adore so much and I appreciate so much, it's not enough because there's no surprise.
Yeah.
There's no surprise to which I can sort of put all of these practices in play, right? Because if our life becomes really routine and monotonous, there's something about the monotony that isn't challenging. And without the challenge, we can't practice seeing these emotions as they are and not resisting them.
It's also, you know, if you're a writer, creator person, you know, a self-generating artist, you know, at some point, I was telling a friend this last night, like you're not interesting enough to ride it the whole way through. You know, you got to be in the world, drawing from other people, hearing other voices, hearing other tales. You know, that's the soil you plant in. And when you're just by yourself for so long, you can. I mean, I do think on some level there's an infinite well inside us that can be gone to, but we're relational creatures.
Right.
So, and that's, you know, I know, you know, not having the theater right now feels like a grievous, you know, collective thing. Like not being able to gather, and live music too, for me, not being able to gather in dark rooms with strangers and have a shared experience. It that's a tough thing. It's not going to be forever, but it's a tough thing right now.
It is. I in my fun research this weekend, I saw where you quoted this Flaubert quote: "Be regular and orderly in your life, so that you may be violent and original in your work." Oh boy, I love that. I have put it on an index card here in my office. When do you feel that you have come close to successfully navigating that, or how do you apply that to your work?
Um, I mean, for me, that quote is about you don't have to be an insane person to be a great artist. You don't
Mm,
have to be a person who is. I really hate the kind of 20th century male genius model. The
yeah.
tortured male genius model. The Elizabeth Gilbert gives like the greatest TED talk of all time about creativity and genius and the whole notion of genius, and it's a lot about that, about the suffering artist. And I think suffering is on the menu if you're going to be a human being,
Mhm.
but I don't believe that artists have some special purchase on or claim to suffering. And I think sometimes, especially men, it has to be said, let their under the guise of I'm a genius artist, therefore I can trample over people, I can be cruel, I can be unkind, I can run through women, or whatever the thing is that we gave ourselves. And I hope that's receding. But what I love about that quote is it says, like, get your life in order in terms of stabilize yourself. The writer's life, for instance, is actually quite undramatic, and it's quite boring. It's a drudgery. It's a kind of and the artists I really am inspired by, like Jeff Tweedy, for instance, the lead songwriter for Wilco. I saw this interview he did with George Saunders, who's another great artist. Both of those guys are like great 21st century models
Mhm.
of like male artists, because they're like working class mentality guys. Like they go to the office and write music. Like Jeff Tweedy, he's from the Midwest. He shows up, he has an office space. I mean, it's a studio, but he shows up every day and he writes songs, whether people are there or not.
Mhm.
He goes to the office.
Yeah.
So I think there's something about that has just been, it just appeals to me as a way to anchor my life so I don't go crazy. I'm always trying to strategize, like, how do I be a creative person who makes things and doesn't become a person that like can't have dinner with other people or relate to the person at Kroger.
Yeah.
Like how can I stay in this world? I'm from Ohio. It matters to me where I'm from, and that I come from the middle of the country. And even though I'm now a coastal elite, that I at one point was I hate that term, but you know what I mean. Like it makes me feel good to just be in the world and be a working person who I think I have special gifts, but I don't think that makes me more special or more deserving of privileges or access or
Yeah.
anything. So it's always this negotiation of like letting myself be the kind of artist I want to be, and being the kind of person I want to be, which is a much more modest kind of proposition.
Mhm.
And this summer, I mean, we could probably talk about this, but I played this insane role in this Al Pacino, show I did called Hunters. And I played this movie star Nazi hunter who was an addict, a recovering addict. And the role was insane. I felt like I was able to get up close to violent and original work while being stable in my life.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't insane last summer. I mean, I was for a weekend or two, but I was like pretty calm, and I was just showing up and doing this work, but my work felt really like something else was taking over. And I think for me to stabilize the life allows the work to be
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, since you're talking about hunters, I told you, like, someone had mentioned that show to me and I knew you were on it, and then we just binge watched it. I mean, we couldn't stop. We didn't even choose to. It was actually extremely inconvenient, the 8.5 that we did it. Um, of that show is so pitch perfect, and I am curious, did the room ever feel that it was risky, the tone that was applied to the storytelling? I mean, because it is fascinating how deeply I feel and how deeply I empathize, but there's also a good deal of laughter, and it's also super offbeat and often strange.
Yeah. I mean, that just goes to trusting the people you signed on with. David Weil is, I mean, he's 30 if he's a day. He's like 30, 31 maybe.
Yeah.
He created it. His grandmother was a Holocaust survivor, and he just has vision. He just has He's got a very strange sense of humor. He's really the sweetest guy, really stable, like really, but he's got this violent and original mind. And we, I said to a couple cast members during it, and we said, is this tonally like all over the place? Like we didn't know if it was going to work, truly. But I said to a couple people, when people said, how is it? Like, what's it going to be like? And I said, no one's going to accuse us of being timid. That I can tell you for sure. So I knew that if it was a failure, it was going to be a really admirable failure. Right. It was going to be one like, well, they went for it. It just missed in a big way. And I would rather be, at this point in my career, I'd rather be in, if I'm going to go down with a ship, I would rather it go down for that reason than for bland, copycatism or whatever, something that feels like, So I just, when I got off How I Met Your Mother, I was just looking for roles that felt like I didn't want to be the virtuous center of a piece. And Disgraced was actually my first taste of in almost a decade of playing like, I don't know if I would call Isaac a villain, but he behaves in certain unethical ways and certainly justifies them to himself. And it was so delicious to me to not be the central virtuous character that the audience is looking through, but instead be one of those constellation characters that comes in, crushes it, says the wrong things and gets the hell out, gets spit on and leaves, So Hunters was kind of a natural extension of that, where I felt like I'm a little more interested in darkness than I used to be, and shadowy stuff. Within reason, I'm not into like slasher films or something like that, but I've gotten to know myself as a more dimensional being that is not, I'm not perpetually virtuous, and I'm not always diligent or kind. Like I slip, because I'm a human being. So just my acceptance of my own imperfection and getting to know some of the shadowy bits of myself a little bit more has made me more interested in roles that are just a little more off and where I know was there. I'll say one more thing on this, but Ron Van Loo, who was my acting teacher at NYU, was a great, great acting teacher. He said from the very first day, he said, you're here to expand your definition of yourself. That over and over, you're here to expand your definition of yourself. And at some point, I think as you've lived longer, and I think this is the ideal, I don't know if everyone goes through this, but at some point you go, yeah, I'm everything. That's what meditation puts you in touch with. Like, I'm everything. I'm a hero. I'm a villain. I'm a saint. I'm a sinner. I'm a good parent. I'm a bad son. I'm everything, I'm a woman. Like there's so much that is really, worlds are churning inside of us. So I think to limit ourselves and say like, no, whenever anyone says like, I'm a good person, I want to be like, no, you're not.
Yeah, right.
like everyone says like, I'm a good person. It's like, no, you're a complicated person. Right. We're all really complicated. Sometimes we might be good. We might be aspirationally good. It doesn't mean we're always going to be, I try to be very alert to my blind spots, which are many.